Hello, everyone. I'm Fozzie or Cam, and I'm here as always with my co-host Will. How you doing today, Will?
I'm doing good, Cam. I am struggling to find out who exactly my basketball team is. One day the Warriors lose a bunch of games and then they go on a 5-game winning streak like they're on right now. So I'm dealing with a very confounding basketball team. I'm trying to figure out who they are. I don't know who they are on a night-to-night basis, but I am happy that they've won 5 games. So I'm doing good. And how are you doing?
I'm doing extra fantastic, and part of that is because of the insane growth of our channel over like a week, right? 2 weeks, maybe a week or
Something
two.
like that.
Yeah, we've gained about 40 subscribers, which
Probably
is
the biggest moment in the
mind-boggling.
history of this podcast so
And
far.
I mean, and the crazy thing is, it's just shorts. And that kind of hurts because we work so hard on these episodes, and then we post shorts that take us literally 30 seconds to make. In all, I can record 5 shorts and edit them all and have them posted in under half an hour. And this takes more than half an hour, and we'll end up getting 20 views. And combined, they'll get over 1,000 views, all the shorts. So yeah, I mean, it definitely helps the channel, but it kind of hurts. But I hope you guys are enjoying them, and then based off the amount of views and the amount of subscribers we've gained, you are enjoying them. Um, so yeah, we're super happy about that. Super happy about the huge game subscribers. 119 subscribers. Good for the Everything podcast. I mean, I'm impressed. A lot of views. Awesome. And we've actually missed like 2 or 3 days of shorts, but I mean, I've actually been working on a short film, which I'm submitting to the Boston International Kids Film Festival
Fantastic.
soon. So I've been working on that, been busy with that. Just finished it up a little
Awesome.
bit. But yeah, tomorrow I'll be back on the grind with shorts, and I'm sure will be as well. So yeah, we're super excited to get back on the shorts grind, and we haven't even missed that much time because Will had his shorts posted on Saturday. But yeah, we're glad everyone's liking them. But now we have an awesome episode planned for you guys. We haven't had done a full length episode in like 3 weeks, which is not what we wanted. It's just, I've said it before. Things happen, right? We have lives that we have to live, right? Which we did. We were living our lives. Doing things such as going to dentist appointments, fun things like that. But yeah, now, today, we're back after 3 weeks with a fantastic episode for you guys. And we're going to start off with the Bruce Springsteen concert that Will attended on Easter. Wow, and I mean, especially after the Grammy Recording Academy calls it one of the most legendary shows ever. Wow. So how was your experience at the Bruce Springsteen concert on Easter?
so I so first of all, I just want to talk a little bit more about the comment that you just gave about the Grammy Recording Academy. So we have a family group text that we're a part of,
Oh no.
uh, Cam, and one of the people in this group text
Oh no.
happens to be my father, Mike, who we've had on this podcast
Oh
numerous
no.
times. Probably the third most featured person on this podcast, not including us.
He's a guest, by the way. Just letting
Yes,
everyone
a
know.
guest. Now he likes to pretend like he's one of the hosts of the show, but I mean, I don't know why he pretends to be that, but I guess that's just what he does. So
Oh
he
boy.
sends out this text message into our family group text here, folks. He says, the Grammy Recording Academy announced today that last night's show was the greatest live event in the history of musical
Can't believe
performance.
this.
Then he says, the Recording Academy reported that the second greatest live event was a Springsteen show that took place on February 25th, 2023. And then he says, it just so happens that Will and I were able to be in attendance for the two greatest live events in music history. So I would like to start by saying, Cam, do you have any response to our friend Mike
Uh,
there?
I am just so upset. Not with Mike. I'm not even upset with him. I'm upset with myself. How did I fall for this? Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh, I can never let that happen ever again. Oh my goodness. So, yeah, looks like Mike got me there, but oh man, I can never let him find out that I actually fell for that. Oh my. Um, but yeah, that I mean, it was a great show, right?
Of course, but I would like to just stay on this for a second longer. So Mike is out here pretending, folks. He's been doing a lot of stuff recently, acting like he's one of the hosts on this podcast, acting like he's on the podcast every week with us. But sorry, dude, but that's not actually the
I
case.
mean, he's not here, right?
Yeah,
So
he's not here, so I don't know why he says that. But anyway, enough of him. He can live his own life, and we can live our lives. But yeah, great show. My second time seeing Springsteen in the course of about 12 to 13 months. So I would say my second time seeing him in about a year. I saw him February of last year, um, on a road trip that I took with my father up to Portland, Oregon, because at the time we weren't sure if he was going to play near us, and it was announced that he was going to play in San Francisco before or after our Portland show. So I would like to say that I am so excited he played at the home of my team, the Golden State Warriors, Chase Center, because that was my absolute dream. When I heard that Springsteen was going to be back out on the road with the E Street Band, one of the first things that came to my mind was I want him to play at Chase Center. I just thought, brand new state of the art arena. I thought it would just be a fantastic place for Bruce and the E Street Band to play. And I think I was proven completely right. I thought one of my issues with the Springsteen show that I was at last year in Portland was I felt like it was such a rocking concert that I couldn't hear Springsteen's voice very well over the loud rock music. But I thought the Chase Center sound was better than the sound at the Moda Center in Portland that I was at last year. So I'm happy to report that,
yeah,
and
great.
props to Chase Center for that. And look, it's always hard with these Springsteen shows for me because there was literally nobody outside of maybe the Avett brothers whose material I know as well as Bruce Springsteen. I've listened to these songs oh so many times. So even if I haven't heard them in a while, it's very hard for them to feel new, fresh, and exciting to me. So that's always a struggle for me, even at Springsteen concerts, but specifically focusing on the concert. Bruce and the Street Band somehow, some way, despite their old age, despite Bruce Springsteen's health scare that made him have to hit pause on the tour for a few months, somehow, some way, Bruce and the Street Band are still in peak form. They just really blow me away what they are able to do. And I must say, Jake Clemens, a nephew of the late great Clarence Clemens, I thought he sounded amazing. And
Yeah,
I really, Bruce and him to me have developed a rapport that is just so fun to watch at these shows. And Bruce, this was such a moving way for the show to end. So Bruce ends these shows solo acoustic with "I'll See You in My Dreams," last song off of his 2022 album Letter to You, and he started to lose his voice during Letter to You. His voice was or during I'll See You in My Dreams. He was starting to lose his voice during that song. He didn't even play the whole song. He stopped it about a quarter of the way through and said, "That's all I got." And Bruce, if that's all you got, buddy, all I can say is that you did more than enough. Props to you
yeah.
for somehow, some way, still being at the top of your game in your 70s. It is a real joy and wonder to watch.
Yeah, that's just so impressive, especially after this health scare and then quick 3 hour concert. I mean, just ridiculous. I mean, it's actually, believe it or not, gotten shorter than what it usually is. So imagine going to Bruce. I mean, I don't want to say in his prime because he's not in his prime right now. I
Right.
mean, I guess his prime would be like around the Live in New York concert album time.
I agree.
Yeah, we'll say that. I mean, imagine going to concerts around that time, over 3 hours, some hitting 4 hours. Ridiculous. But yeah, he's obviously one of the most legendary performers ever. I mean, that's just all you can say. He is one of the most legendary performers of all time. So yeah, props to Bruce for coming back out here after the health scare and putting on a fantastic show. I'm glad you guys enjoyed yourself, and I will never forgive myself for believing Mike. Oh man, that hurt.
I
But
fell for it a little bit. Like I slightly fell for it too. Like the
it's
first
such a
text,
random lie.
yeah, like the first text he put out, I was like, oh, maybe that's true because it was a great epic show. But then when he put out the text about our show from last year, also falling into that category, and then saying that it was amazing that me and him got to attend the two greatest events in musical history. When he said that, I was like, okay, that's just him playing.
Yeah,
That's him doing
I
doing one of his mind tricks.
I just think I didn't read into it enough. I was like, oh yeah, and then I went off and did something else. But oh man, that was bad. I can never let myself do that again. Um, but moving on the podcast here today, we have something that I am so excited to talk about. I have the poster on my wall over here. I mean, I love this movie. We're talking about Dune Part
Yeah,
Two.
probably
Um,
could be the movie of the year,
and
maybe
it like just came out too, and we're
potentially.
still early in the
Yeah,
year,
we
so
are still early in the year. True.
yeah. Um, but based off the movies I see coming up soon, I'm thinking this is probably going to be one of the best. And I actually think I'm going to see it in the theater during my spring break for school. Again, with my parents, because they've watched the first one with me and liked it. But yeah, Dune Part 2, I thought, what a great movie. I mean, the first Dune obviously has its issues. I am able to see past them and think it's a great movie, but I think the pacing is the main issue. It's great, 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 and then it just kind of falls off a little bit and then just shoots to the end, which works because it sets up the second movie so well. And the second movie, it just goes boom, 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 and it doesn't stop. It never stops. It just ends on a good ending, but it's not. It doesn't end on a. Whoo, I mean, these are horrible, horrible representations of what's going on in the movie. But I think you guys
Well,
get the
but I
memo.
I would like to quickly say though that I don't think that's necessarily your fault because I think Dune. I think while you can get the main gist of what's going on, I think there could be some very confusing elements to these movies as well. So I don't think that's your fault if you struggle explaining them because I think, there are some confusing aspects to these films.
Yes, I think less in the second and part two,
Right.
because a lot of things have been explained. I've been able to dive deep into the first movie. I actually have I don't usually stand up during podcasts.
I'm excited to see this little special occasion here. Oh, wonderful.
The Dune book here that I've been able to look at, and it actually has a map of Arrakis in it, which
Ah,
expands on the Dune lore a little bit. So yeah, super interesting stuff there. So now that I've been able to dive into the world of Dune, I kind of have a better understanding, and I know the characters more, and I kind of understand it more. So going into Dune 2, I didn't find it as confusing. Sure, there were parts that were like, oh, but then it got explained. And yeah, overall, I love Dune. I could be convinced to give it a 10 out of 10. The action scenes were flawless. I mean, all of the performances were great. Specifically, Austin Butler, Zendaya, and Timothy Chalamet were fantastic. Christopher Walken as the Emperor, perfect casting, spot on casting. Rebecca Ferguson, great as always. She's a great actress. Yeah, I really enjoyed Dune 2. I think it visually it looks great as potentially an even better score than the first one. And that's saying a lot because the first one is one of my favorite movie scores in recent memory. It's up there with the Batman and Oppenheimer. So, yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed Dune Part 2. But Will, you might disagree with me. You might not have enjoyed it as much as I have. So I'm excited to hear your in-depth thoughts on Dune 2.
Yeah, so I'll start by talking a little bit about Dune 1 because I haven't really shared my thoughts on that movie because I actually was able to see they re-released Dune Part 1 ahead of the release of Dune Part 2, and I jumped on the opportunity um to see that because the first time that I watched the first Dune here from the comfort of my own home, I was just like I was surprised by what a just kind of confusing, slow, boring, dull movie I thought it was. But I said to myself, this is a movie that is very much so meant to be seen on the big screen, and that's why I decided to um see the re-release of the first one on the big screen where it's meant to be seen. And I still had the same thoughts. And like, I'm not gonna really come at Dune too much for being confusing because even though there are confusing elements to it, I I get the overall gist of what's going on, and I can forgive things for being a little confusing if I get the basic gist and I'm still into it. But Dune 1, I just and look, I'm not someone to easily accuse films of being boring. I don't consider myself to have a short attention span. I definitely consider myself someone who can, sit through slower films. But Dune 1, I thought it moved at just such a slow, boring pace, and it clocked in at like something like 2 hours and 40 minutes or something like that. And,
Yeah.
and I just thought it was, boring, dull, too long, didn't really build to anything. So I was just not very. Or do you want to respond?
Quickly, yes.
Yeah.
I disagree. I mean,
Okay.
I respect your opinion. I respect that you have your own opinion. I just don't understand how you could find it boring. I mean, there's so much going on in it. I mean, they're leaving Arrakis. They're getting to Arrakis. They're exploring the planet. There's a whole spy subplot. They get infiltrated. They have to leave. There's a whole war. There's a whole battle. They have to escape. They get to the desert and they're still not safe there. They have to camp out, and then they get rescued by Jason Momoa, and then he dies. He sacrifices himself, and then he finds the Fremen, and he has to duel one to the death, and he kills him and becomes a member of their I don't know. He becomes a Fremen. That's a lot of things that happen. But it's at the end it gets slower, which is what I can see. But I mean, I disagree. I don't think it's a boring movie, but of course you're entitled to your own opinion as always. But
Yeah, I'm not saying. I'm not saying there's not interesting things going on. I just thought it was told in a very slow, boring, non-dramatic way. And when it comes to the second film, I had the same issues up until about the third act. I thought stuff like I thought the Timothy Chalamet Austin Butler duel at the end of Dune Part Two was very exciting to watch, and what they're setting up Florence Pugh's character to do in the third film I thought was interesting. What they're saying, Zendaya's character, what they're setting up for her in the third film, I thought was interesting. So I enjoyed the third act of Dune Part Two. That was probably the most into the franchise that I've been so far. But oh, overall, I had the same issues that I did with Dune Part One, and I'm probably one of the only people who will say this because these are very popular films. But I feel that they could have been told in a more engrossing way than they were.
What do you think they could have done to change it?
I just kind of, I just kind of, I feel like I feel like the pacing is so slow that I feel almost no like momentum with it at all. I just, yeah, like I would say that's what my issue is. Like, I just want to feel like a bit more of just a sense of urgency sometimes watching it. I would say that's what my issue is.
Okay, I mean, I could see that in the first, but in the second, I just think the second is so. I mean, it's not super fast paced, but there's a lot of things going on, and it's not. I feel like it's not happening at a slow pace, but I don't know. That we have different opinions. That's fine, but yeah, I mean, I really like this movie. But out of 10, Will, what do you think you'd give this?
That's a good question. I did like the third act. I enjoyed I enjoyed, as I said, the Timothy Chalamet Austin Butler duel at the end of the film. But if I'm talking about the film overall, I would probably maybe 6 out of 10. How about for you? What would you give it?
I think I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. But moving on from Dune, we have the Stefan Diggs news that just broke before recording this podcast. That Stefan Diggs, was traded to the Texans for a draft pick. Wow. One of if one of the best wide receivers in the NFL traded out of the blue, unexpected. Will, what are your thoughts on this whole trade situation?
So I want to start by saying that I think this NFL offseason from an entertainment standpoint has been fantastic. I think we've had some very entertaining trades, also some entertaining head coaching stuff going on with the likes of Bill Belichick exiting the Patriots and Jim Harbaugh joining the Chargers, and even Aaron Donald retiring was a
Yeah.
huge announcement. So I would just like to say that from an entertainment standpoint, I think this NFL offseason has just been fantastic. And this only adds to it. And look, this is not Stephon Diggs and the Bills not being on the same page. This is not new news. There has been talk of Stephon Diggs being unhappy with the Bills for, I would say, about a year now. So it's not necessarily surprising that he got traded. And I'm not upset at the Bills for trading him if he was unhappy. You don't want an unhappy player on your team. So I'm
For
okay with
sure.
the Bills trading him for that reason. But on another hand, this is Stephon Diggs that you're losing.
Yeah.
And Cam, I think the Buffalo Bills, I just get the sense that they may have really missed their window of opportunity to win the Super Bowl. Because look at the opportunity that they had right in front of their hands in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs this year. They were playing the Kansas City Chiefs. They were playing probably the worst Chiefs team of the Patrick Mahomes era. Obviously, they went on to win the Super Bowl, and props to them, but this was not your typically dominant Chiefs team
Yeah.
this year. Everybody knows that. So the Bills, A, were finally getting to play the Chiefs in a year where you could say that they were a better team than the Chiefs, A, and B, they finally got a chance to play the Chiefs in Buffalo, not in Kansas City, but in Buffalo. They had a golden opportunity right in front of them to finally beat the Chiefs, make it to the AFC Championship game, have a shot to make the Super Bowl, and they blew it. It
Yeah.
didn't happen. And this is not the only playoff disappointment that the Bills have had. They lost to the Cincinnati Bengals in pretty dramatic fashion the previous year, and they lost to the Chiefs in the divisional round game the year before that. So Buffalo has been talked about as a Super Bowl contender for multiple years, and while they did make it to the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs one season, these past 3 seasons they have had what you could definitely describe as disappointing divisional round exits. And now that they're without Stephon Diggs, and let's be honest, Josh Allen's game, the rise that he's had to becoming one of the more elite quarterbacks in the NFL, let's be honest, it's coincided with the arrival of Stephon Diggs. And now that the Bills have missed all these Super Bowl opportunities with Diggs on their team, and now Diggs is gone, I just think the Bills Super Bowl window may have closed. I think I think there's a really strong chance they've missed their opportunity. I'm not sure they're going to get it again, but from the Texans' standpoint, if I was if I was CJ Stroud and I'm sitting there scrolling through my phone, Stephon Diggs is coming to my team. I get to throw to him next season. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I know.
I can only imagine how happy CJ Stroud is today.
I don't blame
CJ
him.
Stroud took the league by storm last season. So the Texans made it to the divisional round, and it's fine that the Texans lost in the divisional round. That was overachieving for them, not underachieving like the Bills. So the Bills, I think their Super Bowl window may have closed, but the
Yeah,
Texans, watch out for them.
I
CJ
know.
Stroud, Stephon Diggs,
Deadly
watch
combo.
out.
Yeah.
Watch out.
All I really have to say now is that the Bills better have a good draft pick in mind. Because Stephon Diggs, like I said, is one of, if not the best wide receiver in the NFL. I mean, especially with the combination of him and C.J. Stroud, it's going to be tough for teams to beat them this year. But we'll have to see how the draft goes. Once that happens, we'll be able to make some more definite predictions. Now I think it's time for us to talk about a movie that we were both so excited for, and it turned out it was horrible. And that movie is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And now, I didn't despise this movie, no. I just didn't think it was very good. It was probably my least favorite Ghostbusters movie, and yes, I'm including the 2016 one, because unlike almost literally everyone else, I really, really enjoy Ghostbusters 2016. I know I'm in the minority here. I just think it's a super fun movie. Maybe it doesn't fit the exact tone of what Ghostbusters is supposed to be, but for what it is, I mean, I think it's a perfectly good movie. But now here, I'd like to talk about Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire, which I mean, one of the biggest complaints here is there are too many characters. Why are there so many characters?
Right.
I mean, we have our central characters from the last one, including Podcast, who I despise, despite being a member of a podcast. I despise that guy. He's
Really?
annoying. Yes, I can't stand Podcast. Um, what's his face? The fire master. What was his name?
Yeah. That guy.
Yeah, that whoever he was. I actually didn't mind him. He was one of the better additions. Patton Oswalt. Why was he in the movie? Why was he in the movie? Why was Patton Oswalt in the movie? He didn't. That character didn't need to exist. Bill Murray should have been in the movie more. Dan Aykroyd should have been in the movie less. All right, what else do we have? Finn Wolfhard's character should have been an actual character and shouldn't have just messed around the whole time. They should have not made ghosts be able to talk to humans like that. That was stupid. Um, what else? There were other characters introduced in the lab, like that science guy and the girl from Ghostbusters Afterlife. Get them out of the movie. We don't need them. What else here? The characters are terrible. There's only 2 scenes where they're doing actual ghost busting, the beginning and the end, and then the middle is a bunch of stuff with the characters because they have so many of them. There's so many characters. I honestly didn't think I'd get this frustrated about a movie that I didn't actually hate. There were some redeeming qualities. Literally every single Bill Murray line was hilarious. I'm sure you'd agree with me there too. But he was barely in the movie. But I'm going to read just a few reviews off of Rotten Tomatoes, and the majority of them are negative. But I'll start with a positive one. Casey Chong here says, a convoluted but reasonably fun and entertaining sequel. Yes, but I wouldn't say that in a positive way like this guy is, because that's not a good thing. And, negative review here. Ooh, this is a bad one. Rachel Wagner says, I thought it was really boring. I wasn't invested in any of the characters. Same, Rachel Wagner. I was not invested in the majority of the characters in this movie. But by the end, I was like, does everybody get to be a Ghostbuster? Yes. Why is everyone a Ghostbuster now? It's ridiculous. Why is Podcast? Why is Podcast a Ghostbuster? He never was. It's ridiculous. I think Paul Rudd's character was bad. That's my opinion. I wasn't reading off that. Read another negative review. Ooh, okay. The plot is pretty much a copy and paste duplication of the original film from a top critic. Let's break it down here. Is that true?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so, no.
I wouldn't say that. That never crossed my mind. We'll read one more review by Jack Reedy. He's a top critic from the Chicago Reader. This newest franchise entry is built on nostalgia and a stacked cast, but not enough to make it worth watching. I think Jack Reedy of Chicago Reader hit the nail on the head. Relies too heavily on nostalgia. Why was Slimer in the movie? He served no purpose other than to give Finn Wolfhard something to do. Because he was just wandering around the whole movie doing nothing. Nothing. He was like the main character in the second one, in Afterlife. And now he's barely a character. He's just goofing off with Slimer. So yeah. There were a few redeeming moments. It was occasionally funny. Some of the actual ghost-busting scenes were fun. The new villain was fun. Cool villain. But yeah, aside from that, this movie, 5 out of 10. Nothing special. Will, what were your thoughts?
So I'm not gonna get as mad as you about it, but I would like to start by saying this. So when I first walked out of the theater, you texted me and you asked me, what did you think of it? And I said, I hate to say it, but I thought it was just bad. Now, I feel that was a bit of an overreaction for me coming out of the theater. I wouldn't go as far as to say it was like flat out bad, but I thought it was certainly not great. And I would like to actually preface my comments by saying this, the trailers that dropped for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, I remember watching them and being like, like there were times when I was like, these trailers, like they're fun, but they're not blowing me away. But then I convinced myself, I said, no, fun, that's ultimately what the Ghostbusters franchise is about. Like fun comedic movies. So I convinced myself, no, these trailers are actually just fine and completely in line with what the Ghostbusters franchise is.
Boy,
but I feel that I should have stuck to some of my original fears about it so that I wouldn't have been as disappointed as I ended up being by the movie. Although I wasn't ultimately disappointed because the reviews were so bad that I was able to go in expecting it to be that. But this is what I will say about this movie, and it's exactly, if I remember anyway, the theater I was in, I don't think I heard people laugh once, which just tells you that the comedy was not up to par. And what do you come
Yeah.
to Ghostbusters for? Now, what I loved about Ghostbusters Afterlife is I thought there were some real dramatic elements to it, and it wasn't just a comedy. And I loved that about Ghostbusters Afterlife. But it's totally okay if a Ghostbusters movie is just going to be a comedy because that's what the original films are or were, and that's ultimately what the Ghostbusters franchise is. But if the theater that you're in is not laughing, well, then that tells you that the comedy just wasn't very good and it wasn't very funny.
Yeah.
And Cam, I would say the ultimate sign to me of a movie that's not very good is when everything just feels off.
I
And to
know.
me, everything in this movie felt off. The writing didn't feel up to par. The comedy didn't feel up to par. Just every single thing, pretty much every single thing about this movie felt off to me. And to what you were saying about the crowded cast, here's my take on that. I'm okay with them having the characters from Ghostbusters Afterlife in the movie and the OG Ghostbusters in the movie. But they added in, I would say about like 4 or 5 new characters who were not OG Ghostbusters or characters from Ghostbusters Afterlife, including the ghost that McKenna Grace's character would have interactions with throughout the film, and the Fire Master guy, and a couple other people. But my issue now, obviously, if you have the OG Ghostbusters and the Ghostbusters Afterlife people, I mean that is already a pretty crowded cast.
Yeah.
But my issue isn't necessarily with the OG Ghostbusters and the Ghostbusters Afterlife characters being in a film together. It's that they added in like 4 or 5 new characters on top of them. Like, what are you doing? That is way too overcrowded, and that makes it where certain characters like Finn Wolfhard just get completely pushed to the side. Now,
Yeah. Poor
on
Finn.
Bill Murray, now on Bill Murray, I think this was Bill's choice. I firmly believe that Bill
Really?
Murray would have. Oh yes, oh yes. I think this was Bill's choice. I think Bill
Wow.
Murray would have been in the movie more
If he
if
liked it.
yeah, I think
Okay.
that I
Yeah.
think that Bill would have been in the movie more if he had wanted to be. I get the sense that Bill wanted a smaller role. I think Bill Murray is too iconic to, for him not to have
Yeah.
got a bigger role if he had wanted that. Now, I will say that Dan Aykroyd was one of like the old but now okay, actually I'm going to rephrase what I'm saying. The cast, I got no issues at all. I think they did everything that they
They
could.
they did what they were supposed to do. There were just too many of them, and it was kind of
Right.
confounding. That's
Yeah,
what
but
I'm
like
thinking.
exactly. But the cast, I have no issues at all. I think the performances that all of the cast gave were everything that they could be, considering the material that they were given. And Dan Aykroyd was one of the only elements that I really enjoyed about the movie. I thought he gave a really fantastic performance, and I enjoyed seeing him in a big role in the Ghostbusters franchise again. And I'm thrilled that Ernie Hudson's
Oh
character
yeah.
got a more prominent role. It's about time for that. So the performances and the cast, I got no issues at all. I think they did everything they could given the circumstances. But as I said earlier, everything felt off to me. Writing felt off, comedy felt off, and they added in 4 or 5 new characters on top of the Afterlife and OG Ghostbusters
Yeah.
characters. Like why are you doing that? So, as I said in my short that I made for the Everything podcast a few days ago, no more Ghostbusters movies. To me, it's impossible for them to face a bigger threat than they faced in this movie. The world was basically facing a second ice age in this film. It is literally impossible for the Ghostbusters to face a bigger threat than this. So just let it rest. No more Ghostbusters movies. That's my plea.
Yes. I mean, I agree with you. I think we should wrap it up here. Um, but just one more thing before we end the podcast. One scene, and I don't even know why. That I think it was the only scene that got me to really, really, really laugh like a lot out loud. And it wasn't really even supposed to be that funny, I don't think, but it was just the fact that it was Bill Murray, and it just caught me off guard. I just didn't see it coming, and it's when Dan Aykroyd talks about how he stopped smoking,
Oh yeah.
Bill Murray just says, "I was proud of you then, and I'm proud of you now," and it wasn't
Oh
even well, like it's just such an unexpected line.
yeah. Yeah.
It just made me laugh. Um, but yeah, that was one of the few scenes that really made me laugh. Most of them coming from Bill Murray, and I mean, the fire master had some funny lines. He just didn't really need to be in the movie. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of the Everything Podcast. Remember, we have a Patreon, and once we get at least one Patreon member, we'll start uploading more and more to that. But we just need people to upload to first. So yeah, definitely check that out for exclusive content. It's not that expensive. It's $1 a month, for the lowest tier, and you still have a lot of perks like exclusive videos. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking that out. There are 3 tiers. You can check our website, or the Patreon website. Link is in our bio on YouTube. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Oh yeah, that's it. I thought I was forgetting something. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of the Everything Podcast. More shorts coming soon. Will, thanks for joining me as always, and yeah, see you guys next time. Man, I am usually so close to hitting the stop recording button. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.